former family friend turned stalker, my mother and I moved into my great-grandmother's house when she and my father got a divorce. It wasn't in the best neighborhood, but we felt safe because at the time we had very good neighbors and family that lived right down the road. My mom had a friend from work that she liked to hang out with named Polly, who was married to Mason, and they had a son a few years older than me. They moved into a rent house into our neighborhood, and I spent a lot of time playing video games and riding bikes with their son. Mason helped my mom with a lot of things around the house. He helped her install a ceiling fan in our living room, and when we were robbed would call the house and make sure everything was okay. He was a generally nice guy, but even as a kid I couldn't help but be a little uncomfortable around him. I think he worked at one point in time, but as far as my memory goes, I can't remember him having a steady job. Years go by, and I believe he became an alcoholic and addicted to drugs. It got so bad that P divorced him and moved out of the house, taking her son with her. Now that Mason was a single man, he decided to set his sights on my mom, and that is when all the trouble began. He began by calling our house constantly and asking for rides to places, due to no license from too many DUIs, like the gas station, so he could buy cigarettes. My mom, being the kind woman she is, would help him out because he had always helped her when she needed it. On one of these occasions, she took him to the gas station and he stayed in the car and told her, "I didn't really need cigarettes." When my mom asked him why, he replied with, "I only wanted to spend time with you. I figured we could have some fun." Now, my mother is a strong woman. She immediately told him that just because he was single, that she could only see him as a friend because he had been married to Polly for so long. My mom had never gave him an inkling that she was interested in him this way. Unfortunately, Mason had been someone that my mom trusted, so not only did he have our home phone number, but he had my mom's work number as well. He would call her constantly at work just to see what she was up to. Then when my mom stopped picking up the phone when he called, he would jump our fence and wait under our carport until she got home from work. There were times where he would even sit behind our house, so my mom would pull into the carport and he would come around the house and pretty much trap us into giving him a ride somewhere. At this point I was a teenager, probably around 16 or 17, and he would say things to me like, "You're getting so pretty," and look me up and down with this creepy stare. That was when my mom became worried for my safety as well. Before I go further, I must admit that my mom had a slight hoarding problem. It wasn't anything like the TV show Hoarders, but it was just mess that accumulated over time that overwhelmed us both. I contributed to the problem, so the blame can't be all on her. Because of this we didn't let anyone into our house, and I never had friends over because it was so messy. My mom was embarrassed about the mess, but at the same time felt overwhelmed about trying to do anything about it. There were points in our lives where our house was kept clean, but they were very short-lived. The only reason I mention this is because it has a role to play in this story. One day we came home from someplace, and followed our normal routine. I watched TV or played video games before going to bed. Even though I was older, I slept in the same bed as my mom because I had always had a bad problem with dealing with dark. I fell asleep as my mom did her crossword puzzle beside me. I was awoken out of a deep sleep with adrenaline coursing through my veins when I heard my mom yell, "What the fuck are you doing in my house?" My mom never used the F-bomb, so that terrified me. I was frozen. That is when I heard Mason's voice. He had gotten high and broken into our house to steal some food. When he heard us coming home, he did the only logical thing by hiding in my mom's closet. For 5 hours. My mom yelled at him until he got the fuck out of our house, but after that we were both so shaken. I can't remember if we went somewhere else for the night or if we stayed there, but it only got worse after that. My mom threatened him with a restraining order, and the next day, there was a crudely written letter in our mailbox with the words, "A picture is worth 1,000 words," where he threatened to call the health department on her. My mom and I spent the rest of the day cleaning and crying, wondering why this was happening to us. I have never felt so scared in my life. One of my reoccurring childhood fears was something coming out of the closet to get me. She left to talk with him and told him that we could forget this if he'd just leave us alone. And he did for a while. Then he started calling my mom's work and leave disturbing messages. He was so messed up in the head that he actually thought he and my mom were in a relationship and were having sex. They were not, and couldn't understand why she was ignoring him. One night I was on the phone with my friend when I heard my mom pull up into the carport. I was going to the door to unlock it to let her in when I heard my mom scream. I didn't think anything of it because we had frogs and bugs that would scutter about and catch you off guard. Then I heard a man's voice. I knew it was M. That was when I was really scared, knowing I was on the other side of that door and something was happening to my mom and I didn't know what to do. I was too afraid to call the cops, and since we lived in a bad neighborhood. Close friend in college turned stalker. Last year I went out of state for my first year of college to a school in Indiana. In the first week I formed many friendships, and one of those was with a boy who would end up becoming my stalker. He was fairly normal at the start and I genuinely enjoyed his company, as well as his roommates, and we became quite close, spending a lot of time together. Soon I had developed friendships with other people and he became a part of my friend group. About a month into knowing him I started to get a feeling that he liked me more than a friend. I still acted normal around him because I didn't want to draw attention to it because the feeling wasn't mutual and I didn't want to ruin our friendship. One night about 3 months into school everything changed. This night all of my friends came to my dorm room. At the time it was a double I was occupying by myself, to drink before they went to a party. I had told my friends that they could drink in my room, but I did not want to go out because I was very upset by a hurricane that was hitting my town in Florida. All of my friends were supportive of this, except my soon-to-be stalker. Throughout the time he was in my room he was making jokes about how dramatic I was being, and even when everyone else told him to stop he wouldn't let up. Finally everyone is ready to leave to go to the party. My stalker is the last to exit my room. Before going he tells me that he cares about me and that if I change my mind and decide to go out or if I need anything that I should text him, which I found strange given his previous behavior, but I figure he had come to his senses and was attempting to be a good friend. A couple hours after my friends leave I get a text from another friend telling me to come help our one friend who is too drunk and is vomiting, so I change and walk to her building. Upon arriving I find out she is fine now and that they put her into her bed. I go outside of their building and cry about what's happening at home on the steps by myself. I get a text from my stalker asking if I had changed my mind. In the moment I was sad and figured if I went out with them and drank maybe I would feel better. I tell him where I am and ask if the group wants to meet up. He says that they will come, but arrives alone. He suggested we hang out in my room, but I told him I want to go see the group. He didn't seem to be too happy with this, but I call one of my other friends to see where they are and we go to another dorm building where they are drinking. The party was busted so they left. When we get inside we have a hard time figuring out which floor they are on and what room they are in. My stalker is visibly drunk at this point and pushes me into one of the connecting suites that is vacant. He begins to make fun of me again for being upset and is becoming very touchy. I push him off of me and tell him to stop. We finally find one of our friends and that friend tells us we can meet him in his room and he has alcohol there. My stalker suggests we just go to his room instead because he's in a fight with one of the other guys and doesn't want to see him. I believe this and agree. When we get to his room we are greeted by his roommate and a bunch of his roommate's friends. My stalker grabs a backpack with his alcohol and says we should just go to my room and our friend group can meet up with us, so we do. My dorm had 2 beds in it and my stalker sits down on the one I sleep on, so I decide to sit on the other one. He puts on a movie and everything is normal at first. I immediately begin texting my one friend whose room everyone was in and tell him to bring our friends over to my room. My friends were all drunk at this point and everyone I texted wasn't making sense. My stalker then gets into the same bed as me and lays beside me. I immediately feel uncomfortable and start rapidly texting my friends and tell them that ___ is acting strange and that they need to come now. He sees I'm on my phone a lot and so my stalker grabs my phone from me and tells me I need to take a 10-minute break from it. During this time he becomes very touchy and suggests we try this trick with my jewel where he exhales it into my mouth, to which I reject. I tell him it has been 10 minutes and that he needs to give me my phone back. But he denies knowing what I am talking about. I stand up and move to the other bed because I feel uncomfortable. He gets up and moves as well. I sit at the very end of the bed, opposite of him and demand my phone. He continues to play dumb. Instead, he moves closer to me and tries to playfully touch me. I have had enough at this point and tell him he needs to give me my phone right now and that it isn't funny anymore. He tells me he needs to go to the bathroom. While he's in the bathroom I grab my laptop and I message all of my friends to come to my room ASAP and tell them that he is being very creepy and I need their help. Once he returns he tells me right away that he wants to level with me and that he thinks we should hook up. I had been making it very clear the entire time that I did not want that and thought he would be able to read my body language and the situation and realize I was clearly uncomfortable. I tell him no and that I just want to be his friend and not ruin the friendship. He doesn't listen. He comes over to me and starts playfully grabbing me, and when I push him off and tell him to stop, he pushes me down onto the bed and tries to come over me. He grabs my legs and pulls me into him. I was thankfully sober and was able to kick him away from me and get up and run into the hallway. He doesn't leave my room and begins to insult me and tell me he never wanted to be my friend and only wanted to sleep with me, and that guys and girls can never be friends, it always has to lead to something more. He then says he would never date me and that I'm too emotionally unstable for him, and a slew of insults. One thing he said that especially scares me is that he was raised to take what he wants no matter what. When defending his actions, I don't know what to do and just start crying and yelling at him to leave my room. He refuses and then makes fun of me for crying. At this point he still has my phone and won't give it back or leave. I threaten to call the campus police on him if he does not leave, and finally he agrees. After that night he texted me every day for a week trying to talk to me, and one of my friends told me to listen to what he had to say, so I do. He ended up confessing his love for me and told me that he still thinks we cannot just be friends, even after I said multiple times that that is all we ever could be, and ultimately I told him I think we need to stop talking. All of my other friends knew what happened and dropped him as well. He spent months trying to talk to me. He became completely obsessed. I would still hang out with his roommates, but I would only go to their room when he wasn't there. On the few occasions where he would come in, he would later text me paragraphs about how immature I was being for ignoring him. Finally I said we could try to be civil and just be acquaintances to be nice, but that led to him getting very mad at me for still acting uncomfortable around him and never wanting to hang out with him. At this point, every time I would see him he would blow up my phone and text me non-stop about me being fake towards him and that I needed to get over myself. I finally blocked him. After doing this he got very angry. He would show up where I was all of the time and just stare at me. His roommates would tell me that he talked about me every night basically for the rest of the school year. He would try to ask them things about what I was doing and who I was hooking up with. He would go up to my close girlfriends all of the time and ask what he could do to fix things with me. He tried to fight a guy who expressed he was interested in taking me out on a date. A few months after the incident he made up excuses to come to my door. He lived on the same floor as me, almost every other day. He started trying to talk to me in the hallways. He would offer me his things and even bought me a Christmas present. The last few months of school he told his roommate that his goal was to sleep with me before graduation and that he thinks I want him and am just playing games with him. I in no way want him or make it seem this way. The only way I act towards him is completely disgusted. Even over the summer he has been texting his roommates about me. All of my friends tell me he is stalking me and recognize that the way I am acting is in no way asking for his attention. I go back to school in the middle of August and he will be there. He will be living in a frat next year, so I don't have to worry about him being on my floor, but he still worries me. I think something is very wrong with him emotionally or mentally, and not just because of the way he's acted towards me. Just in general, I don't want anything to happen to myself or anyone else and think I should do something about it. Looking back on that night, I would say his behavior and the things he said were very rapey, and that people who think, if I want something I should take it no matter what, are at a higher risk to sexually assault someone. My female friend turned into a stalker and creeper. This is a tale about a friend I used to have years ago. Her name was Sarah and I met her in the 7th grade. Back then, she was a normal preteen girl, much like myself. We were best of friends for 7th and 8th grade. We lost touch after our 8th grade graduation because we went to separate high schools, public for her, private school for me. It wasn't until I moved back into my mother's house at the age of 19, pregnant and depressed from my failed relationship with both my father and ex, that I started talking to her again. We picked right back up where we left off at the end of 8th grade and quickly rebuilt our friendship back to best friend status. She even agreed to be my son's godmother. Now, I want to take a moment and tell you a bit about Sarah and myself. We were the same age, our birthdays roughly 2 weeks apart from each other. She was the oldest of 3 girls. We both appeared to look similar almost. Both fairly pale in skin, glasses, and same height. She was a few inches taller than me, but nothing to really brag about, and weight. Her hair color was more blonde compared to my brunetteness and had blue eyes while I have brown eyes. Back to the story, this takes place a few months after I had given birth. Nothing major had happened between me and her yet, except she was a little bossy, but I brushed that off as being the eldest sibling. Nothing I couldn't handle. The only thing that I found weird was that she freaked out if I didn't answer her text messages back right away. Even if I was at work and couldn't without fear of losing my job. But I tried brushing it off as her worrying about me. I had started dating a new guy named Josh. Sarah was actually the one that introduced us to because Josh was a good friend with her boyfriend, Rob. Naturally, I started spending a little more time with Josh, but still spent a lot of my time with Sarah. She didn't take to this very well, and tried causing problems for me and Josh. After having a sit-down with Sarah, telling her I wasn't giving up our friendship but neither was I going to push a guy I really liked away. She seemed to have gotten the message and backed off. Shit hit the fan shortly after Josh and I moved into an apartment together. Sarah demanded to spend more time with me while Josh was at work. I really had no problem with it, but her bossiness started to reach unbearable levels. She didn't ask to stay for dinner, simply said she was staying. Asking her to leave for the night fell upon deaf ears and many times crashed on our sofa, causing any possible sexy times with Josh to fade. It got to the point she started tagging along on our dates. So we simply started not going out. I tried talking to her, but she kept saying if I was a real friend, I wouldn't mind her being there all the time. Well, we managed to get one free weekend without Sarah. She had gone to some water park with her family, so Josh and I got to spend some much-needed alone time together. However, because of the strain Sarah caused us, we had a hard time enjoying each other. I refused to end my relationship with him and we tried hard to work it out. We tried talking to her boyfriend, Rob, asking if he could help us. He said they were planning on getting an apartment together at the beginning of the following month. She was still living with her parents at this point, but told us it was looking like it was going to be in the same complex as us. I could deal with that, figured she would want to spend time in her new place, decorating it and hosting dinners for her friends and families. Also note, I had gotten my hair done earlier in the week. I got an awesome new haircut that looked great and loved it a lot. I got many compliments on it from various friends. Well, when Sarah came back from her mini vacation, she had dyed her hair to the same color as mine and gotten it cut the exact same way. I didn't really mind too much. It was a pretty sweet haircut, but both Josh and I couldn't get over how weird it was we were looking like twins. She even got colored contacts to wear under her glasses that changed her eyes to the color of brown. Like me, one night later that week, I was hanging out with another mutual friend of ours without Sarah. Her name was Heather. Heather and I had gotten around to talking about Sarah when Heather said, casually, "You know she is jealous of your life, right? She's even got a huge crush on Josh and you." I really had no idea. She didn't say anything about it to me, and I had no idea she harbored feelings like that for me. She's had many different boyfriends over the years. After that, I started to notice a shift in Sarah. She wanted to spend even more time alone with me, and oddly enough, more alone time with just Josh. On one of these nights, she tried to kiss me. Now, I have no problem with someone being gay. I have many other friends who are, but I am not, and everyone knows it. I like guys way too much. I told her this and she went crazy. Told me I was a lying cunt, that I was leading her on, and that I had to kiss her back because she said so. I told her no, I didn't, and I didn't lead her on. She left shortly after to meet up with Rob and Josh while I took care of my son. I didn't really think anything of it until Rob came over, saying Sarah kicked him out of the house because she wanted to talk to Josh alone. I filled Rob in on what had happened, what Heather said, and my feelings. He sensed something weird was going on. I got Heather to come over to watch my son while Rob and I went back to their apartment to confront her. We found her in bed with Josh. Naturally, both Rob and I were upset. Rob and I just left and he crashed on my sofa for the night, though I don't think either of us really did much sleeping. The next day, I broke up with Josh and Rob broke up with Sarah. Rob ended up moving back in with his father and just cut ties with Sarah and Josh completely. Sarah blamed me for the ending of her relationship with Rob and vowed to make my life a living hell. She kept her apartment in the same complex as mine and tried very hard to get me in trouble with our landlord. At random times, the landlord would stop by saying I had a noise complaint against me or said that someone complained about some awful smell coming from my place. After the third time he came by saying someone saw a rat coming out of my door. Did he realize someone was just trying to cause me trouble? I had told him, but he has a job to do, I guess. When Sarah learned that wasn't working, she started calling my home phone and cell phone at random times. Never said anything, and all the calls were restricted, but I knew it was her. From my window I could see into her apartment and always saw her looking out at my window while on the phone. On the phone the exact times my phones were ringing. I quickly changed my phone numbers and that was the end of that day. No one besides my mom and work had them, and neither cared for Sarah much. After learning what she had done, when she realized she couldn't get a hold of me via phone, she took to blowing up my email and MySpace/Facebook. Obviously it didn't take me long to block her on that. However, this takes the cake. Apparently she had a copy of my key. I don't know how she got it, I never gave her a copy. I figured Josh might have given her one when they started to be sexually active, or else she just stole Josh's and made her own copy. She took to entering my house when I wasn't home. At first I started noticing little things disappearing or being moved. My bills were no longer on the kitchen counter, but on the dining table. My favorite shirt had gone missing. Cordless phone across the room from where I last remember setting it down. I thought I was simply losing it and misplacing things. I am a bit scattered brain, but not that much. This went on for 2 or 3 weeks until bigger things were missing. My son's DVD player, my keyboard, cell phone charger, bath soap, towels, and even my son's baby blanket were all taken. Naturally, I did the most logical thing and called the police and landlord. Landlord changed out my locks ASAP and the cops agreed to talk to Sarah. They said they wouldn't be able to do anything unless she let them in and or admitted it, but they would still try to talk to her. And this is what I was told. They knocked on the door. She opened it wide enough for them to see the wall behind her. On this wall was hundreds of photos of me, either alone at work or at the store or with my son at the park, store, etc. It wouldn't have been so creepy if it weren't for the fact that she wrote in big letters with red paint, "Die, my name." It covered some of the photos and the wall. The police were able to search her place. They found journals full of her writing saying how she wanted to kill me, how she was going to do it, and other fucked up things. She had my work schedule written on her calendar. Not that it was hard to guess it, it was the same every week, and on a certain day she had it circled and marked as kill day. Police found an unregistered gun and a huge knife. She was arrested. I promptly moved out and back into my mother's house. I found a new job and changed my appearance. I cut off contact with all our mutual friends, not the two had many, and found a new job. I haven't seen or heard from her in 3 years now. For all I know, she is still in jail. I just count my lucky stars.